All right, today we're going to talk about something pretty wild coming out of Google. It's called Gemini Deep Think, and it's based on a totally new way for an AI to reason. And yeah, it's already breaking records that, honestly, most people thought were completely unbreakable.
And just to give you an idea of what we're talking about, an AI just hit a gold medal standard at the International Mathematical Olympiad. You have to understand, for years, solving these kinds of problems was seen as one of the ultimate goals for AI. It was a challenge a lot of experts thought was just, well, out of reach for any machine.
And this wasn't some lucky fluke. According to the top folks at Google, this was a very deliberate push to create a step change in reasoning. So what they're saying is, this isn't just another small update. Google is trying to fundamentally change how an AI actually thinks.
So how on earth did they pull this off? Well, a leap this big doesn't just happen overnight. It's actually the result of a super fast, super focused evolution that's all happened in just the last year.
It really all kicked off just last December, back in 2024, with this little experiment they called flash thinking. By May of 2025, they were confident enough to give it the official Deep Think brand at their huge I/O conference. Then it launched to the public in August, and get this, we're already on version 3 by this December. That is an absolutely massive jump in just 12 months.
So, what's the secret sauce here? How does Deep Think get these incredible results? Let's peel back the layers and get into the core idea that makes this whole thing tick. It's something they call parallel thinking.
And the core idea is actually really intuitive. It's called parallel thinking. And honestly, it's a lot like how you would solve a really tough problem. You don't just doggedly follow one single line of thought, right? No, you explore a few different angles, you kind of weigh the options in your head, and then you pick the best one. That's exactly what Deep Think is doing, just on an unimaginable, massive scale.
So here's the play-by-play. First, it branches. It takes a problem and just explodes it into tons of possible solution paths. Then comes the parallel evaluation. It actually explores all of those paths at the exact same time. It tests each one out, and this whole computation part, it's not instant. It can take several minutes. Finally, it gets to the synthesis stage, where it looks at all the outcomes and picks the single best one to show you. It's kind of like having a whole room full of experts all debating a problem at once and then presenting you with their final unified answer.
Okay, that all sounds very cool and very complex. But does it actually work? Well, the proof is in the numbers, and let me tell you, they are nothing short of dramatic.
Just look at this. Even that very early experimental version, flash thinking, saw a 106% improvement on a major math test compared to the standard model. We're talking about a jump from a 35% score to over 73%. That's just a colossal leap.
But this is the number that really makes you stop and stare. A 535% improvement on a benchmark called ARC-AGI-2. And this isn't just some random test. It's designed specifically to measure an AI's general problem-solving intelligence. So we're not talking about it getting a little bit better. This is a totally different league of performance.
And the latest version, Gemini 3 Deep Think, is just an absolute monster. It's smashing records everywhere, from a ridiculously hard test called Humanity's Last Exam to super complex coding challenges. The scores are just top of the line. And just look at that math score again for AIME 2025, a perfect 100%. A perfect score. That's unheard of.
So yeah, it's pretty clear Google has a real powerhouse on its hands. But you know they aren't the only ones in this race. So how does this whole new approach to thinking stack up against the other giants in the room, like OpenAI and Anthropic?
Well, it's interesting because we're starting to see these different philosophies take shape. Google's going all in on this parallel thinking and aiming it at high-end consumers. OpenAI, with its simulated reasoning, is priced more for developers who need heavy API access. And then you have Anthropic's Claude with its more flexible extended thinking. So different paths, different price points, but everyone's chasing that same goal, just plain smarter AI.
But here's where the story takes a really critical turn. All of this record-breaking power, well, it comes with a pretty huge catch, and some really serious trade-offs in the real world. This is that classic story, right? The incredible breakthrough versus the practical bargain.
And this is so important to understand. Deep Think is a specialist tool. It's a scalpel, not a Swiss Army knife. It is amazing at incredibly complex problems like deep scientific research or making sense of dozens of documents at once. But if you ask it for a quick fact or a simple definition, it's actually almost twice as slow, and you get zero accuracy benefit for it. It's like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut.
So remember this perfect score we just talked about? A perfect 100%? On paper, that is absolute perfection, the very peak of AI reasoning. Now hold that thought,
And contrast it with this warning from a mathematician who actually used it. He said its citations need to be manually confirmed. And that right there is the core problem. It can solve math that stumps geniuses, but you can't actually trust the sources it gives you.
And believe me, that citation problem is just the tip of the iceberg. One study found it gave bad sources in 6 out of 8 research tasks. It's also painfully slow, sometimes taking 20 minutes for one answer. Its knowledge is already out of date. And users are saying it's way too wordy, makes stuff up, and refuses to answer a lot. Oh, and on top of all that, there's that eye-watering price, $250 a month. Ouch.
And here's the real kicker. Even if you are willing to pay that price and put up with all those issues, you probably can't even get it. Right now, it's only in the US and only in English. That version that got the gold medal, that's locked down for a tiny group of academics. The developer API, only for a few hand-picked testers. So access is incredibly limited.
So that all brings us to the big final question. What we have here is an AI that gets perfect scores on impossible tests, but in the real world, it struggles with reliability, with speed, and with cost. So is Deep Think a true glimpse into the future of intelligence, or is it just a fascinating, incredibly impressive, but ultimately impractical and very expensive experiment? That's the question we're all left with.